Hi everyone, and today we're going to do a small drywall repair. This was a leak from a dishwasher above, just a minor leak, but as you can see the tape is ripped off the seam here, and there's a little water stain over there. We'll get that too, but today we're going to show you how to fix this and get it looking like new. So the first thing we have to do is remove all the damaged material. So just the tape where it's separated there, and some of the paint may come off as well, but we'll take a scraper and possibly might need a knife and get rid of that old material and get it all cleaned, ready for new tape and mud. So what you want to do here is basically get rid of all of the excess material with a putty knife, and then do a quick light sand to get any of the other loose debris away from the surface. So just the tools that you're going to need to do this type of repair. I've got everything that I need for this particular job. So I've got my vacuum because we're making a little bit of a mess. Step ladder because it is up on the ceiling. And I've got a fan. This is optional. I've just got the fan and to blow on it once I get some mud on there to help it dry a little bit. So I've got some tape. I've got the fiber mesh tape and the paper tape. Paper tape is the recommended, but if you don't have it, then there is you can use the fiber mesh if you're in a pinch. Going to be using the Dust Control sheetrock drywall compound. This is the premix. If this was a little bit bigger of an area, I would probably get the powder and mix it myself. Probably sheetrock 90 is usually what you would use. Once there's a trowel for putting the mud on, and a little sanding sponge for sanding it once it's dry. Once it's all done, then I'm going to put a coat of primer on it. So this is the stuff I had on hand. It's pretty good because it's a stain resistant, and then a little brush for that. You might need a knife, so I've got a knife, and then of course safety glasses and a mask. More so for when you're sanding, and then eye protection, just because we're working over our heads and we don't want anything to fall down and get in our eyes there. So this is pretty much what you need for any minor drywall repair. Once you get into bigger jobs, then it's a little bit different, but for things like this where the like I said, the dishwasher leaked and just has a little bit of damage on the ceiling, this is good for what we need it for. So the damage wasn't as bad as I was expecting. The tape's still on there. I thought the tape had pulled away. It was just the paint. So what we're going to try to do is just get a little bit of mud underneath the old tape there before we put a coat on the top, and we'll get it set. So I had two different types of tape here. We had the mesh tape. So if you don't have the paper tape, mesh tape is not the best thing for corners, but it will do in a pinch. What you want is the paper tape because it has the crease in here, so you can get that up into the corner and give you a nice clean edge. So because the tape is still on there, then we don't need any of that stuff. But if we did, we just rip off a little piece and put a little mud on, stick it to the mud, and then put a little mud over it to set it. Just a quick note on this mud. The premix does have a lot of air in it and a lot of bubbles. So you'll see the pro drywallers, what they'll do is if they get the premix, they usually come in the boxes. They'll put it in a bucket, and what they'll do is they whip it. They'll mix a little bit of water in, and they'll get a big paddle mixer, and they'll whip all the air bubbles out of it. So what you can do in this case is just when you're getting ready, just work it a little bit. We don't need much, but just, you know, mix it, work it, and try to get a little bit of that air out. Worst case is if you don't get it all out, it just means that you're going to be sanding a little bit more. But for this type of repair, we're not going to put a lot on, so sanding is going to be cut to a minimum there anyways. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get underneath the tape here where it's pulled apart, just so I can stick that back down, and then I'm going to put a coat over top of it there. So I'm going to try to get this a little bit underneath it there. Just slowly try to work it in and then put a light coat on top of the seam. Now I'm going to do the rest of it with the light coat. Once you get a nice smooth coat there, you can see kind of in the corners it's not quite smooth, but we'll get that out in a second. I want to get a coat on the top here. And the reason that's not smooth, if you watch Vancouver Carpenter, he's got a good series on drywall. The trowel I was using was a new trowel, and I needed to sand the edges. It was digging in too much. So that's going to dig it out a little bit when you do that. So what you want to try to do is get a coat on and just rake it out like that, as smooth as possible, as thin as possible, because then you're going to have less sanding. You can see when I'm going over it, it's digging into the corners. If the trowel was sanded, then it would be a lot smoother. Just take a bit of sandpaper and lightly go over the two edges of the trowel, and it'll get rid of that sharp edge. That. Let it dry, and then come back and sand it and probably put another coat on it. So I've got the fan on it just to try to get it to dry a little bit quicker. Should take about an hour or two. Basement here is pretty warm as well, so what you want to do is it should be completely dry. If you sand it and it's still a little bit wet, it's just going to gum up your sandpaper and it's not going to leave a clean finish. So I'll show you once it's dry what it should look like there. You can see here I'm putting my finger in it and the mud is still wet. This is after an hour and a half, so let it dry a little bit more. So what can you do when you're waiting for drywall to dry? Make a cup of coffee. No, it's too early for that. Spoon, use a fork. Play with the dog. play with the new Nerf gun that you didn't tell your wife you bought? Still too early for that. Checking to see if it's dry, and it is, so we're ready to sand. Make sure you have your safety glasses and mask on for this part, as there is a lot of dust in the air. Once it's all sanded, I usually give it a quick wipe down. And as you can see here, there's still a little bit in that corner that needs to be filled. So we'll go ahead and just put another light coat on that. Also going to build out the seam a little bit wider than before just to blend it in. So that's filled in much better. Quick vacuum and wipe down, and we're ready for paint. So I'm just going to put a light coat of primer on it just to seal the new repaired area. You always want to seal new repaired areas with primer. This is 2 coats of primer, and as you can see, it's pretty good. Always remember to wash your brushes out after, especially if you have good brushes. So I always run the water through it until it's somewhat clear, and then I will leave it in the sink for probably a half an hour just to let it soak, and then do it again. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to like and subscribe to see our future videos.